Welcome to the Spectators Podcast. Here are your hosts, Corey and Jeff.
Welcome, spectators, to episode 22. My name is Jeff, and to my mic adjacent is the ever beautiful Corey. How are you today, sir?
I am not bad. It sounds like you had a really hot day in BC, and I've actually not been too bad at about 25, 26 degrees, so I can't complain. But what did you say? It was 37 there?
37 with the humidity.
Yeah, that's
so
brutal.
I am having a hot boy summer, but just inside. So, and I don't want it. So
It's a literal hot boy summer. It's not the hot boy summer that we both I wanted.
Exactly. No, exactly. I probably could just literally put an egg on my kitchen table and it would cook. It would be delicious. But probably not safe either. I have small children. Probably should maybe do something about that. But speaking of hot, the WWE is
red hot right now.
It's just sizzling. It's just sizzle. Really, professional wrestling is kind of sizzling right now because Tony Khan is sort of responding to all the news, and what's his name, CM Punk also. So the wrestling world is kind of ablaze right now since Vince, I almost said Vince McMahon. Vince Vaughn is not the owner of WWE.
No, he's
not. Since tall man, very tall man, probably would have been a good wrestler. I think actually, got on the mic probably. The wrestling world is a bit of fire since our friend Vinny McMahon, not our friend, someone's friend, not ours.
I think it's as to be expected. I mean, we talked about so much related to the idea of him potentially leaving, and not really for the reason that we expected him to retire. It was more so thinking he was going to be pushed out of the WWE. But he was in some.
I think he kind of was, don't you think?
Pushed out, but I mean, on paper, it'll never come across that way, right?
Yeah. Literally, 2 days after he retires, it's like, oh yeah, he used company expenses. Basically, they said that the 14 whatever it is million should have been booked as company expenses. So that's not fantastic. And that he ended up. I think he's still the majority shareholder, but he did have to give up some shares because of all this.
He had to release the majority of his shares so that he can no longer be majority shareholder.
Oh, really?
That's what I read. Yeah, so I don't think he had to give up all his stock, but he had to give up a significant chunk of his stock, to pay that 14.6 million back, and then semi to get him off the majority shareholder list. So I don't know. I mean, we shouldn't be surprised. I mean, Vincent Kennedy McMahon is again, we had this conversation in our last episode, so legendary in so many ways too, that him departing from WWE and the wrestling industry altogether is going to create some sort of really hot news, and it's probably going to be talked about for quite some time. It'll be trending. So
well, it's I think it's going to take, I don't know, a year, I don't know, to we can actually, I think, really fully understand what the Vince era was, because it's been, was it Friday he announced retirement? Yeah. So today is Wednesday.
So 2 more days.
It's been less than a week, and just some of the things that we're starting to hear about, in what did I read? In creative meetings, he had to be filtered. And talking about culture, I just read today that apparently, so Vince Russo, which I'm still learning who the people are in the WWE world. So Vince Russo brought up an idea that which we'll get into Monday Night Raw, but the Your Daddy's Not Here Anymore may have actually been an ad lib by Roman because he's not a fan of Theory and doesn't actually want to work with him. And Vince Russo brought up his history between Jinder Mahal and Brock Lesnar, and apparently Brock didn't want to work with Jinder, so eventually the WWE just took Jinder's. Somehow he lost the title because Brock was refusing to work with him.
Right.
This is from Vince Russo. I don't know the truth to it. Did you hear anything like that before? Like, I think that's quite interesting if it's actually true.
Well, there's a few guys in the industry. Okay, to lay down. There's Vince Russo. There's Bruce Pritchard, and there is what's his name?
Meltzer.
Dave Meltzer is one of them. Jim Cornette. Okay, so all four of these guys. Dave Meltzer kind of fits outside of this realm because Meltzer's always been kind of just an analyst from the outside in, kind of looking. But he does work probably pretty exclusively with creating some works that have happened in the past. But, these three names, I would say, especially Russo, they like to stir shit up. They like to stir the pot, right? And they like to create unnecessary drama in the ring, outside of the ring. Russo, he's been around the block, right? He worked. He
used to be a writer, right?
Yeah, he was on the writing team and the creative team for WWE. He was there for WCW. I think he came back to WWE. I believe he had a stint in TNA. I believe he might have had a stint in AEW in the beginning, or he does now. I don't quite recall, but he's been around. And he knows the business pretty much inside out. Now, the talent, they didn't like him. There's a lot of things. You hear a lot of podcasts. You hear a lot of things from previous talent, new talent. That they didn't really like him. They don't like his writing style. He was horrible in WCW. He put a lot of talent down. Jim Cornette was kind of a promoter kind of guy too, right? And he talks a lot on his podcast. He puts a lot of WWE drama on there. So these guys, they like to stir up drama. So they're valid sources because they know guys on the inside. They know the people on the team, right? And they know kind of what's happening. So some of it may be true, but there may be some, non-validity or some story stirring it up, right? I don't know. I've never heard anything about Brock and Jinder before, but I mean, I did feel like Jinder got the short end of the stick. He was the WWE title holder for a while. Basically, he was kind of another one of those Gunther projects where, he was under a different name. He was in a different faction. He was part of the 3-man band with names Heath Slater and Drew McIntyre back in like the early 2000s, and then they all kind of departed. They came back, and Jinder was one of those guys who kind of listened. He put on some weight. He chiseled his body. He had that look now, and he won the WWE title. And he had a decent run with it, but then just ever since he lost the title, he's dancing
saddled
with
Shanky, which drives him nuts. And you can kind of tell he's a bit. I look at Jinder, I'm like, this is what's happening here, but. It's been I've been reflecting since our last podcast about our conversation about Vince McMahon we're talking about now, and I still believe it's valid to celebrate once and acknowledge the bad, but it's certainly we're starting to get more of a bigger picture of what the bad look like. And I think really what speaks to it is, and why I said it, I think it's going to take a long time because, so we can dive into it more, but the other big piece of news was Paul Levesque, or Triple H. His birthday today. Happy birthday, Paul.
Happy birthday, Paul.
It's nice to see he's healthy. Actually, I saw a really cool video. So Summerslam Saturday, and they're doing open auditions right now for independent talent to get the WWE, and him and Paul Heyman are down there, and actually talking to the audition, whatever you call them. So it was cool to see that. Cool to see him speak and stuff because I actually haven't seen him talk in quite some time.
You're talking about Triple H?
Yes,
talking?
Thank you.
Yeah.
He's a really cool guy. Anyways, that's been the talk. Like I think it was Monday morning they announced that, I think, or Sunday.
Raw.
So really massive news because we didn't really know we thought Paul, like we already knew Paul was going to be head of talent relations. We didn't know he was going to take this head of creative, because everyone was wondering what was going to happen in relation to that. So really, kind of people are wondering what this is going to look like now with Paul Levesque, or Triple H, at the helm. And people are very optimistic, but then there's some folks that are skeptical, and I think rightly so. And one guy would be CM Punk, who we all know Punk has his history with the WWE.
He also has a bit of history with Triple H, and
oh, really? Like, not so good? I didn't know that part.
Kayfabe and non-kayfabe, I think they didn't really get along. So, I mean, he's going to shoot on Triple H a little bit, I think. One of the things you said, there are different facets of what kind of reactions coming out of this. One of the things that really spoke volumes to me was we've been sitting here since probably, I want to say almost the end of May, since we've heard the initial walkout of Sasha and Naomi.
Sasha and Naomi, yeah.
And now there's already talks, only days away from Vince's retirement, that there's talks about them coming back. I believe both of them do have a good relationship with Triple H, especially Sasha, because Sasha was part of that NXT group that Triple H really fostered.
Was running.
It's really hard to say. Like, everyone's gonna have different opinions, and I think you have to look at the evidence base. You have a guy who was going to be head of the creative while Vince was kind of going through these things and wasn't quite retired yet, and that was Bruce Pritchard. Not a lot of fans of Bruce Pritchard in the back room, but he's more seasoned on the writing team. He's been in and out of WWE, but I think Hunter, Triple H, like, he really showed what he could do in NXT. He took that brand and he brought so many stars out of it. Like if you think about the amount of attraction he created for NXT as a brand and the work he did with them, whether it was talent relations, whether it was probably one-on-one ring work and advice and creative work, like Seth Rollins was a Triple H guy, right? I mean, he worked really closely with Cody's dad. Triple
Dusty.
H. So Dusty Rhodes was working with Triple H down there, but after Dusty's passing, really Triple H took that. So, like, there's tons of names of people who were down in NXT back then. And, know, Seth Rollins, Bray Wyatt, Finn Balor,
he's close with Bray.
Shinsuke Nakamura. I think Braun Breaker is down there now, but I think he did have some work with Triple H. Sasha, Becky, Bailey, Charlotte, like, they all have a relationship with Triple H. And I remember one of the things that always stood out to me was whenever any of these talent from NXT came up to the main roster and they won a championship belt, they always kind of posed. If you go back to WWE's Instagram and scroll back a few years, before Triple H had his health scares a year ago or earlier this year, when he was quite active, you'd always see them shaking his hand, hugging him, taking pictures to pose with him after winning championships. And you can see that, like, admiration on both sides, right? Like, it was almost like the admiration of their teacher and his proud student. And you saw that relationship. And I feel like what he's done, he's shown that he can create a good product. He's shown that he has a creative mind. And this guy has a mind for the business. I mean, you were a wrestler in the WWE for so many years. You're a 14-time champion and Grand Slam champion. You have it all. You've done it all. And not only that, you're so close to the man himself, right? He's your father-in-law. You've learned from him.
Yeah.
You know a little bit about the ins and outs. And I think the fact that not only is he creative, but the fact that he has the experience himself to back it up, what to do, what not to do, and provide that advice. As a talent, it goes a different way. You imagine a coach in the NHL who's played the game versus a coach in the NHL who hasn't played the game, right? A coach who's always been a coach versus a coach
the
who's
game, because he was the game.
He is the freaking game.
Sorry. Couldn't resist that pun.
But it's true. It's true, right? The impact he must have on those wrestlers of I guess it all comes down to credibility. right?
Well, and I think where people are like, why I'm thinking it's going to take so long for us to really understand like if things are changing is that I agree with like, so CM Punk went on a massive rant
Yeah,
about what happened with Sasha and Naomi, and how he's like, well, look how they reacted. Michael Cole, I think it was Michael Cole, like on the saying, oh, they just disappointed SmackDown, blah blah blah, and then we all knew Brock Lesnar left SmackDown, and they didn't say anything about him. So he's bringing up those juxtapositions, right? So I think, as much as there's reports that like, oh, talent said that they would stay or they'll come, right? There are still people there from Vince's era, like Pritchard. You said, is it Vince Dunn? Is that
Vince
his name?
Dunn's still there. Yeah, he's
Right?
on the
Like,
production team, I think.
yeah. So there's still some guys who were a part of that culture that was so problematic for people, right? Um, So I think talent is excited because Paul is now the head of writing and the EVP, executive vice president of talent relations, right? So he does have that role, but like, as you know, like if you look, in a hockey context, right, when a new general manager comes in, they can't make instant change, right?
No.
They have to evaluate, see what's going well, what's not going. I mean, mind you, like Paul does have an idea of what's going. I mean, he's been working on it. It's like you like internally hiring a general manager in hockey, right? Like they've been in the system, they know what's going on. So like I mean, if you look at Raw on Monday, I mean, I know the script was approved before that,
Vince
but like,
left, yeah,
I don't know, like that was a
there had to
very,
have been
very
some
different.
changes because it
That
felt
was
like a very different Raw.
It felt like such a different show, and even Friday's show and SmackDown seemed. I mean, like Stephanie comes out to say to do his chant, and then after that the prophets come through the crowd. I haven't seen something like that since since I've been watching, and I've only been watching since SummerSlam. No, since WrestleMania, so
WrestleMania,
like
yeah.
4 or 5 months. So it's like these, like they said, like Paul's really like only like because he's been in there not that long, like he only makes small changes, right? So I do believe that that first hour of Raw was pretty telling of some changes, right?
One of the things
But
that really just so I don't forget this point, one of those things
Yeah.
that really comes to mind here is you talk about Vince McMahon, you talk about the old regime. We all know at this point Vince had a kind of closed door policy, right? He wasn't
Yeah.
very open to people coming in. Triple H has already said he's going to have an open door policy, as Stephanie McMahon has also said. But I think one of the things that's hard is Vince was that guy that wanted to create. He wanted to have his foot in every kind of situation. There's a reason why a company like this has a production team, has a creative team, has because you're not meant to do it all. This isn't back in 89 or 80
Yeah.
85 when Vince literally was doing everything. God, the guy was commentating at the time and running the business if you think about it. But I think the problem is for the longest time he's been basically the final word on creative. Vince had been the final word on creative, and he'd been the chairman, so he'd been the boss of the company, but he'd also been the guy who has the final word on creative. And I don't believe I want to, at least I want to believe, I don't think Stephanie and Nick will take that away from Paul. I think that they will run the business, the financials, the business, the crowd, the marketing with the marketing teams. They'll do what they need to do, but I think they'll keep that final decision with Paul on creative.
Yeah,
And that's
it's
what
actually-
it sounds
it's-
like.
It's funny you say that too, because if you look at the marketing for SummerSlam, it's vastly different than what I've seen since I've seen Hell in a Cell and Money in the Bank. It's the two pay-per-views I've seen. Like the
And
marketing's way
Backlash.
different.
You saw
Oh, Backlash too,
yeah.
right? Yes, I did. Like like they have the moving graphics now. They haven't had that before.
The moving graphics
That's-
haven't been around since like the early 2000s, I want to say, and they
Yeah,
were a hit.
like-
Like I love them.
It's kind of cool. So there's that. Like, so like again, like I think all they can do, like all they can do right now is make those small changes, right? Yeah, I'm glad you went on a tangent, because I didn't want to feel like we've left this topic before we talk about Raw, because Raw in itself is a topic in itself. But I think, and that's just how I think. Like, I think people who are excited for people to come back, like Bray and some folks that I think have some hesitation to still come back to WWE or go elsewhere. Even Sasha and Naomi. I know Sasha has said she doesn't want to wrestle till 2023, right? So I think the talent within WWE and the folks that are humming and hawing about it are happier, obviously, because the folks that left. Well, I'm not too sure. I think Bray was a mental health thing, but still, if he was 100% invested, he'd probably be back by now, right? I'm not too sure what's going on with Bailey, but I think Bailey was coming back, so that wasn't.
I think Bailey's well, I think she had a lingering back injury is what I think it was.
Yeah,
or a lower body
so that
injury.
wasn't necessarily.
She's ready to go at any time, is what I hear.
Yeah, so I think it'll be really interesting to see, and like most analysts are saying the same, like give him 60 to 90 days to really to start to see a change. I mean, maybe not. Look at some of the things we've seen with SummerSlam. I mean, all of a sudden at the end of Raw, which I know we're jumping topics, but end of Raw, Seth Rollins comes out and takes out Riddle, and all of a sudden now there's no Riddle, and I don't know if that was coming, right?
I don't know if that was Vince's plan. I have my doubts it was Vince's plan.
Well, yeah, you would think it's because they're not. I mean, why I think that's so interesting is that they're already struggling to sell tickets.
Yeah,
right?
and the fact that it wasn't announced until today that was seriously going to happen. So we're only 3 days from SummerSlam. So.
No, and then what was my other one? Oh, I've lost it.
You were going to say that they're already struggling to sell tickets, so having Seth Rollins
struggling to sell. Yeah, that was it. So it's a bit of it's a really interesting. Oh, the Edge. That was the other one I was going to bring up. So I think that's really interesting, why they would do something like that. So I think again, maybe it's just building up for Friday, right? Because now you and I are like, oh, they've got to replace, and even the internet, Rollins has to be at SummerSlam. What's going to happen? But they're making it sound like he's not coming because Seth came out and said, "I'm sucks, I can't be there." Triple H saw on Twitter responded and said, "That sucks." Right? So we'll definitely see. What Edge was the other one because everyone was like, "Oh, Edge is coming on Monday." Then all of a sudden we hear right before Raw that there was travel plans canceled and he's not going to be on Raw. So I think that might be small. That might be how we're seeing some of the small changes. And they depending on who you look at, they've said there's there was a report that Paul wants to make a big splash at SummerSlam, right? Mm-hmm. But what people are missing is the second part of the report was that only if it makes sense, right? Mm-hmm. I've seen a few outlets just take the first part and go, oh, he wants to make big changes. It's no, only if it makes sense. He's not going to blow everything up, right?
We talked about it earlier. He knows the business, and I think he understands that making a big splash for the wrong reason just to do it is not going to make sense for business.
Well, that's kind of what Vince did, right? Not necessarily, but he would sort of. I feel like he would, he pushes guys. He does things for the wrong reason. Theory is a good example, right? Lots of folks feel Theory is being unnecessarily pushed, right? And we don't have to debate that, right? So I'm not doing it for the right reasons, right? So I think, like you said, Paul is going to have a better sense of when to change things, when to not change things, right? I think that first hour of Raw screams to me that it was they were sort of putting their little tiny stamp on the night because we had no. We'll dive into Raw then. So Monday Night Raw I think was insane, and that I think that first hour was just bananas, right? Mm-hmm. High octane, and we all there was no indication that that what was going to happen was going to happen. I think all that was announced was that it was the 6-man tag, that Roman was coming, Logan Paul, right? That's the only three?
That's the only thing we
knew. And then the Rey Mysterio's 20.
And the Rey Mysterio thing. We've known that for weeks, but other than that, yeah.
So, and then that first hour comes out where, it starts off with The Miz and Paul beating the hell out of each other, which was, it is what it is. They clearly bring it. They brought Logan Paul on just to
I heard an interesting story to that. I don't know if you heard about it. But I heard that apparently the reason why they started out with them brawling is because when Logan Paul made the walk down prior to the show starting, which they have started shows where somebody's been in the ring before, he was booed immensely
Oh,
Like,
really?
he was booed like crazy. Like, the fans are not buying it. They're not liking him being there. So he was booed so much that when he came out and asked for The Miz to come out and he was booed so much, they actually didn't start Raw right on the 6 o'clock dot. They started Raw at 6:02 or something for us, anyways. So, anyways, I found it to be really interesting because you have a situation where you're literally worried about starting the show on booze that you completely cut out what's going to happen. And that's unfortunate, but I mean, I agree with a lot of the fans out there that Logan's just not that good on the mic, and he's not very viable. I think you said it the first time you heard him. You were like, he's not very good on the mic. He's skipping a beat. Like, he's not doing very well here.
He's a YouTube star. I'm surprised. I guess it's different.
Bring
when
him
you're
in
front
for
of a crowd.
WrestleMania. Bring him in for a special event, but sign him to a contract long term. I'm not sure about that.
Well, I mean, that's just special event stuff, right? Like, he's not. Yeah, he showed up. She's been on. I think he's on Raw twice. So,
Yeah, he's
but
just
that's
promoting
just to sell.
SummerSlam. Yeah,
That's just to sell SummerSlam, right? So we'll see. I think the Miz will win that match, but I think it'll probably be a good show. The match he had with the Miz was good, right? I didn't watch WrestleMania last year.
The match that he had with the Miz, I think he did have a good tag team match. I think he showed up pretty well, but again, he wasn't really on the mic. He wasn't really doing stuff. But now that you start seeing him like try to hype things up, he's not very good. You see Miz really having to hold this for him. But yeah, that's apparently why they started the show like that. I honestly thought they started the show like that because I was like, oh, they're kind of trying to be like AEW and start the show like right in the action. But apparently it was because of that. So I mean,
well, it had some AEW-ness to it.
It did.
In that first hour, it was chaos as hell, right? Like,
it was.
But I have to say, the Roman segment was pretty good. Like, of course, you can't deny Mr. Paul Heyman and his hypeness, especially the ad lib with the mic. That was hilarious.
Well, they messed up, yeah.
We got a giant guy from Jersey on the mic, and even Roman's like shaking his head at him and stuff.
He's like, "You're gonna be the first one out the door."
yeah. So that was pretty good. That was some good ad lib, but yeah. And so what I took from the first hour of Raw was like, Theory might not be on the same train that he was projected, right? Because, like, to give Theory credit, they did wrestle for probably 45 minutes straight, like, and he got the crap kicked out of him, right?
Yeah.
Like he did. So
it was a good match overall.
Well, he fought against Drew, and then he did a tag match with who did he tag with? It was Lashley.
Lashley and
Drew.
Him and Sheamus,
that's what it was.
And Sheamus didn't even want to tag him in.
Yeah. So so I'm jumping, but so then Theory does come out and finally talks to Roman and doesn't do the stupid little runaround like he did a couple weeks ago, and Roman just ripped him a new one, and just that line was just priceless. Just looks at him and goes, "Your daddy's not here anymore," and the crowd just ate it up. I think, like, for anyone who wasn't really a big fan of Roman, I think he probably got a few points for that one. And and again, that may have been an ad lib, because like I hear what Vince Russo is saying, because if you look at Theory's face, it looks there's a little bit of shock in there.
Taken back,
you know what I mean? Yeah, like a little bit like, whoa, I didn't expect that, but like, good on Theory for taking it in stride. But Roman just verbally lambaste him, and then Drew comes out and kicks the crap out of him. Mind you, Theory kind of held his own a little bit.
He did actually do all right there. But one point to your whole ad lib thing. Think about this, just to analyze that a little deeper. Vince is not an ad lib guy. He likes to go by the book. He likes it mostly scripted. It's a very rare few that went off script, and we talked about this in the past. Your Stone Colds and your Rocks, but really, there wasn't a lot of guys going off on script. So I think Triple H probably has a part to do of that, and saying, hey, you know what? If there's something that makes sense that you can go off script a little bit, go for it, Roman. Like, we trust you. You've been doing this. Like, go ahead. And he did, and it worked, right? And I think that's
good.
Probably some of the small little things that you'll actually see, where you're talking, you're not going to see massive changes at once, but you're going to see these small little tidbits that you probably see a stamp of Triple H on.
Yeah, and then it continued, right? So then he tagged up with, like Drew was basically, calling him a little sissy and all that things, right? So just like the verbal stuff, right? And then, he tags with Sheamus, and Sheamus disrespects him, he's his tag partner, right? And then, Ziggler comes out and disturbs the match and he loses, right? And then at the very end, the Bloodline super kicks him in the face, and then Roman tells him to, make the right choice, right? So like that first hour was so interesting to me. When it was over, I was like, man, like is this them like saying like, Vince is gone, like look what we've done
Making
to
a statement?
his boy, right? Because like Theory was his boy, right? I mean, the dude got unceremoniously added to the ladder match and got the briefcase, right? So
And that had Vince painted all over it for sure. But hey,
right.
here's a question for you. Let's analyze this a little bit. You want to say that whole first hour and everything that happened to Theory on Raw, how does that make you feel as a fan watching, thinking, because I know you had your thoughts going into SummerSlam previous to Raw. I think you were saying you thought there's a good chance that he could cash in successfully, he could win all 3 belts. Now that you saw the direction they went with Theory, does that change your perspective on what might happen when it comes to SummerSlam now?
All 3, no. I still see an avenue where he takes 1 off of Roman. Because I just don't know. Like, I know Paul said he's not going to make crazy changes, but I think the appetite for Roman to have both belts was already waning. But now with Vince gone completely, like, I don't know. Like, so he's coming up close to 1,000 days as the Universal Champion.
700.
Oh, okay, 700, right? So yeah, okay. So he needed another close to a year to get to 1,000 days.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyways, so he's had the Universal belt for a while. He's just had the Raw belt for a few months, right? So, like, I think I see a scenario where he may take the Raw belt off of him. Like we talked about last episode, where like, he goes and cashes in, thinks he's got both, and then whoever, Stephanie McMahon or Paul or Adam Pearce, comes out and says, well, the contract's only for one, so you got to pick one. So he'll probably pick the Raw one, right? Because I do really feel like for him, and also for us, I was reading some Reddit threads last night that the appetite for the fans too are like, they don't like this unification stuff.
They don't. We don't. I haven't liked it.
Yeah. In the tag, hopefully the tag belts are there too. Although I think the Profits could do well on both shows. Like the men's tag division isn't the greatest. You got the Vikings, you got the Alpha Academy, who, man, I love the Alpha Academy. They're one of my favorite.
I love Otis. I've always loved Otis, and I know
I love Chad.
Chad.
Shoosh. I'm actually teaching my daughter to do shoosh.
Thank you.
I didn't know he had his master. Is he right? He has his masters?
I do believe he does. Yeah, he is.
That's amazing.
Pretty smart.
Well, and he has like the physique of an Olympian too, so that doesn't surprise me that he's also an Olympian. Anyways, yeah, like I do see it. I'm hoping that Lashley does retain the U.S. title. Like, I think that's a nice feel for the U.S. title. Like, if there's a good heel, I mean, go for it, right? But like, I do feel like, I mean, the lack of opportunity at the top belt, right? Like, isn't there? So just let Lashley go for a bit with the U.S. title, right? And then I can see it. Like, I guess I'm quasi hoping. Like, I kind of want the belts to be split, because then if Theory's not worthy of the title, someone will take it off him quick, right? Like, maybe it's Seth Rollins, right? Maybe he'll go after him after that, or Dolph will somehow get in the way of him winning it. You know what I mean? So I see the less scenario of him walking away with all three. I did see a scenario that was possible. But now I'm more convinced that if anything was going to happen, if he was going to walk away with a belt out of SummerSlam, I think it'll be the Raw. Is it the World Heavyweight title? Is that what they call it in Raw?
The Raw title is just the WWE title. Oh,
okay. Well, that's the one I think he'll walk out of SummerSlam with.
So here's my theory.
Yeah, theory. It's no other word. Postulation.
Well,
let's just use that.
He was Austin Theory, and then Vince took the Austin away and made him just Theory. I liked Austin Theory better. It made more sense.
Mm-hmm.
My idea here is this. I think that you're totally right. Under the Vince regime, I thought there was a good chance he was going to win all three, and they were just going to slap all the titles on him, and who knows which direction they'll go with him at this point. I think they're going to keep the U.S. title with Bobby. I think it makes the most sense right now to build Bobby up with the fans, become a really good U.S. title holder again, create some relevance for that title, because I think it has lost some relevance.
He's just a monster. So,
he's just a monster. But I think Theory will cash in successfully, and it doesn't matter who it's against. But I think he will cash in successfully against one or the other, and we will see Theory cash in, win the titles. SummerSlam will come to a close, and he'll get challenged for a rematch either on Raw or SmackDown by either Brock or Roman. And whatever direction they go, I feel like Theory is still a Raw superstar, so you're right, he could hold that WWE title. I suspect that they could go the direction of Brock getting a rematch. Let's say Brock wins them both, okay? If Brock wins them both and Theory cashes in on Brock, then Brock will show up on SmackDown and he'll challenge a rematch to win the Universal title back. And then he'll face Drew at Clash. Or Roman will challenge him and he'll face Drew at Clash. So I do see Theory walking away with both belts, but very quickly losing one of them.
Yeah, see, I think ideally they're going to want Drew to win. Drew or Sheamus, well, probably Drew, will want him to win a belt at Clash.
Yeah.
Right? So, and I think they'll want it against Roman, because I think they still see Roman as this ultra. I mean, Roman's a really, like, now that I've been able to watch him wrestle, he's actually really good. Like, there is some, to quote him, Island of Relevancy, there is some relevancy to actually him being holding both titles. He's really good. But it's just he's not there, which is frustrating.
And the same thing will be with Brock, right? You know that he's not going to be there. Although I feel that if Brock stayed, let's say, as the Universal Champion and won the title, like he won the title back, it's a hard decision, because even if he won the title back, you're right. I think if either of them win the Universal title back or something like that happens, Drew's going to win it at Clash. I think that's their plan, and I think they're going to go.
It needs to be with a full timer. Like, I can't see Paul wanting these belts with part timers. Like, did they have that a lot when Paul was like, did they have a lot of part timers who had the belts back when he was
almost never. I don't think there was really such a thing as a part timer until really The Rock came along. But here's another thing that we have to keep in mind with the whole situation is Dolph is still lingering behind. He's still behind.
Yeah.
There's still something going on there. I talked to you about it. He was on the bump this morning. He said he doesn't really want to challenge Theory for the briefcase.
Briefcase.
He just feels like Theory's a guy who just has been handed a lot of stuff. He hasn't earned things. And this sounds very much like what the fans are saying, right? And he's saying you need to teach him a lesson. I think there could be a storyline for Dolph to potentially help him win this Universal title or win these titles, and then Dolph may mentor him or maybe just advise him in some way. I thought Paul Heyman might actually advise him and turn on Roman, but I think maybe at this point maybe they have something with Dolph. They have a long-term story they can actually work with. That if Dolph can advise him down the line, we could have a true good heel turn on Theory, where Dolph would turn on him just like the Judgment Day turned on Edge, but this time it would be I'm turning on you and I'm gonna win the world title or something like that, and that could be something that they could really build up to. But it's hard because with Theory they have so much they could work with. They've got Bobby, they've got Dolph, and they have John Cena at WrestleMania 39. They have a lot of avenues they can go with him, so I think it's really the opportunity is in favor for them because they could really go a lot of different directions here with Theory. So it might be exciting to see him win both titles, lose one, maybe win one of the titles. But it would be a weird situation to see him cash in and then only get one title after they've been talking about him potentially winning both. So, but it could be a possibility.
Yeah. Well, I almost wonder now, like, because the other running theory we talked about was that Dolph will stop him. Yeah. He'll go to cash in on Saturday, and then Dolph will super kick him, and then
Roman will pin him or Brock will pin him. Yeah.
Well, no, he won't cash in at all. Like, he'll keep the briefcase.
Oh, like he won't even cash in.
Yeah, like Dolph will stop him from cashing in. Like, he'll fight him or whatever.
Maybe that's a long-term storyline. Maybe he stops him from cashing in and is kind of advises him, like, don't be stupid. This isn't the right moment. Neither of these guys is the right guy to cash in on.
Yeah.
Dolph was the kind of guy who cashed in when he had the right opportunity, right? Like, Edge was down. You know, I think he cashed in on Edge. He also faced Cena for... I realized that he also faced Cena for the briefcase. Like, he won the briefcase, and then Cena challenged him, and then in that challenge that Cena challenged him, Dolph retained the briefcase. So Dolph has some good history with Money in the Bank and cash-ins, and that's why I think you could have a point where he could stop him, and the whole idea of stopping him would be to advise him to do it at the right opportunity against the right person, and then he'll turn on him later.
Makes me wonder then, like, if he would do it at Clash then, because then, like, not only would you, because then, so here's where my mind's going is, like, Roman wins, he retains, Brock goes back to his ranch and stays there, hunts his hogs or whatever he wants to do, and then Roman goes to Clash with both belts on the line, loses to Drew straight up, and then he cashes in then after a month of him and Dolph, like Dolph mentoring him, because they talked about the idea that Dolph was there to build his character up because the fans aren't fully sold on him yet, which I think is fair.
Yeah.
Because I think Theory's got the tools. It's just he's young, right?
Yeah.
So, like, if he could actually, like, you know, because, like, someone brought up a good point that since winning the briefcase, he's 0-6. He hasn't won a match since he.
Single match.
Right. So I wonder if, like, you know, Dolph stops him from cashing in at SummerSlam, saying you're gonna lose right now. You're gonna lose your Money in the Bank, like. And then he'll mentor him, maybe try and turn on him before Clash. He'll beat Dolph, and then he'll cash in after Drew and Roman beat the hell out of each other.
That could be the case.
So, case. Sorry, you're full of the puns.
Full of puns today.
But yeah, no, and so we jumped off of Raw. I did really want to focus on the Rey Mysterio.
One more point before that.
Yeah.
If Brock loses, so let's say we think there is a good possibility here that Brock loses. Do you think it? I mean, this would be his third loss in a row, I believe, of the title shot, and we know Brock's not a guy who often loses his title shots. If he loses again, it kind of kills it for me. Like, as Brock is that beast, as that character that really, like, owns everybody. I know he's super strong still, but I don't know. I feel like his relevancy is completely gone if he loses this match. And I think that's a really hard thing. I think that's a really tough thing for the WWE to do because Brock is such a draw. But if you take his relevancy away as that guy who just walks through everybody, you can't really do much with him anymore. So I wonder if it's Brock's swan song to walk away from the business. I mean,
it's a last man standing match, so you think so. Right?
I honestly do wonder.
Yeah, it's TV 14, so they're gonna literally beat the stuff out of each other. Back to Raw. Back to Raw. But I have mixed feelings about the Rey Mysterio thing with the Judgment Day, right? So if we look so far this year, we've had a few 20th anniversary. We had Orton's 20th. They didn't celebrate Brock's because Brock's a part-timer. Batista's not around anymore, so they didn't celebrate his. They had Cena, of course, and now Rey's. So, you know, it was nice. He came out, he talked to the crowd, he honored Eddie Guerrero and thanked everybody and, you know, thanked his son and stuff. And then, you know, they feuded with the Judgment Day. They had their day in the ring. They won the match. And then
another homage to Eddie there, too, with the chair to bow
that was
awesome.
Back
to him. And
yeah, that was fantastic. Because, like, so, like, juxtaposition when Orton had his 20th, right? Like they had a huge thing, and he did they had the 4-on-4 match, the
Right.
8-man tag match, and he RKO'd everybody.
Yeah.
Like it was quite a nice thing for him. But then like I feel like it went from like Ray's 20th to like Judgment Day, right? So I don't know, like as nice it was to see Rhea Ripley come back. I really enjoyed seeing that, and just her awesome shade throwing of wearing the Eddie Guerrero "I Am Your Poppy" shirt. I think that I didn't recognize that until I saw it later.
I recognized it right away, and it irked me then.
So like that, I think it was nice to see Ripley back. I think Ripley is really starting to really relish this heel persona. But like I don't know how you feel, but I feel like they moved off of Ray's 20th too quickly to build up this thing for SummerSlam between them and Judgment Day. I don't know, like I just feel like there was a tiny, like a smidge of disrespect for Ray, who to me is like one of the best superstars of all time, because he was a guy that wouldn't normally be in the WWE because of his size. He mentioned it too, right?
Yeah.
Like, and I think it's absolutely accurate. Like he was going up against the Big Show, right? And like
he's my
Undertaker,
height, and probably about my weight.
Yeah.
Yes, everyone, I'm short. And he's able to go against these like massive giants, and I agree with you. I don't know, it was a bit of a sign of disrespect, and there is some speculation in the community, the wrestling community, about why. John Cena and Randy Orton are both WWE guys. Their 20th anniversary has only been with WWE. Ray, as we know, started in Mexico. He moved from Mexico to WCW. He was a WCW guy that came over in the swallow of WCW. When WWE took over, Ray was also one of those guys who ended up coming over in that merger. So people feel like because he's not necessarily a WWE guy like Orton and Cena were, there may be a little bit of disrespect there, and it was kind of stab at like, okay, we'll give him something, but we're not going to give him the full party, because you're right. Like Orton came out, it was a huge celebration. Everyone was involved. There were so many superstars thanking him and talking to him. John Cena came out, started the show. He had tons of different backstage skits. He came out and he was greeted by everyone in the locker room except for Becky Lynch, but everyone else and that feud goes a little back, actually, him and Becky. But he was celebrated, and he came out, and I felt like it almost went from Randy Orton's being the best to John Cena's being second to Ray's being third, because John Cena really got that, and then he was in the ring to thank everybody, and he left. Right, he took off.
Yeah, I think that was more Cena's doing than
that was
anything.
more Cena's doing. Where Ray, he got what he got, and then I didn't like how he got that and started a match right away. I didn't like that. I didn't like how they came out, and of course Judgment Day had to like cut him off in the middle of a celebration and stuff. But I think WWE missed a big opportunity there, because
I do too.
Because they could have done really good with it, but they also could have done something with Dominic. Dominic was really boring during that whole situation, and they could have somehow had Dominic turn on Ray. And like I talked about this in the last episode, but like I know it's disrespectful and it's sad, and it's like it's on your own father's 20th anniversary, but you want to create some heel with Dominic. You want to create character with Dominic, and he hasn't had very much character yet. And that's what the Judgment Day is trying to do. Their whole motto since Edge was there was like, we're going to take you to the next level. We're going to bring you up and build you as a character, whether it's good or bad. They could have had him turn. And I was sitting there watching Ray talking, and Dominic was behind him, and I was just thinking, I'm like, it's going to happen. He's going to turn on him. He's going to hit him. He's going to do something, and Judgment Day is going to come out. And they didn't go that route. And then they still had him in the back, and he still didn't turn on Ray. And I thought it was a missed opportunity, because I thought that would have been a great way to have Dominic join the Judgment Day and have this storyline go further, because, Ray's coming to the end of his career. I'd say he's definitely, like he said, he's definitely on the latter half of his career than the middle of his career. And, I thought it was a missed opportunity. But yes, I did like seeing Ripley come back, and it does show me signs that Ripley can actually bring some relevancy back to that group. because it had lost a lot of it over the last couple of months.
It makes you wonder, like, are they saving the heel turn for Dominic for SummerSlam? Because it's a no disqualification match, right? So they're gonna have chairs and stuff. All would for example, and it seems like, because it's obviously Ray and Dom versus the Judgment Day, which is Finn, Damien, and Ripley. So there's a female,
and I think
character
Ripley will
right?
be in the back. I don't think she's going to be part of the tag match. I don't think so. I don't think so, but I could be wrong. But they didn't do anything with Edge on Monday, and I doubt they're going to do anything with Edge on Friday. So could we potentially see, like you said, maybe we start the match and Ray's expecting Dom to start the match and be a tag team, and before the match even starts, Dom turns on him, and then you have the three of them in Judgment Day staring down Ray, and then Edge's music hits, and Edge comes out, and then Beth Phoenix music hits, his wife, and then Beth comes out, and then they face off, and she would be a great competitor for Ripley because she's really tough and big and strong too. So that could be something that happens, because there was speculation that she was supposed to be in the travel plans with Edge too.
Who's this?
Could be something. This is Beth Phoenix. So Beth Phoenix is Edge's wife in real life.
Oh, okay.
But she used to be a superstar as well. And she was kind of like, how Rhea Ripley's like that really big, strong, tough like competitor in the female division. She was kind of like that back in the early 2000s as well.
Okay.
So Beth could be like a good competitor to Ripley, I think. And like the last time we saw them together was probably the Rumble or after the Rumble this year, or maybe late last year. We had seen Edge and Beth face off against The Miz and Maurice was the last time we saw them in the ring together. So it's a possibility that could happen, but I just don't know, because we talked about this a long time ago, where we suspected that when the whole Judgment Day was facing off against AJ and Finn, that Finn was going to turn on AJ and Finn was going to join Judgment Day that way. And they messed that whole plan up and then scrapped Edge, and that's how Finn joined. We don't want to see another opportunity like that, where like we think Dominic might turn, we think he might turn, he might do something, and he doesn't again. I think it's going to be another missed opportunity, and I think if that happens and nothing happens with Judgment Day, if nothing happens with Edge, I think we probably can put the nail in the coffin literally on Judgment Day. I don't think they'll go anywhere else with this unless they have a splash at SummerSlam, unless they do something
I
big.
think they will.
Yeah,
I think they will. Like I get, like, because it was a late edition too. It only got added on Monday, right?
Yeah.
So, and it makes you wonder now, like you said, with Seth, and well, right now they could change their mind, and Seth could have a match in some capacity at SummerSlam. There's a match that's taken off the card. So, I'm curious this Friday if they're gonna. I can't really maybe the Vikings and New Day will go, but
I've been thinking
really
a Shinsuke and Gunther match maybe.
Oh, yeah, because that's the one belt that's not there.
And they had 9 matches, and losing this match puts them at 8 matches. If you look at last year's SummerSlam card, they had 12 matches.
12. Oh wow.
So they can't drop from 12 to 8. So I was thinking that they might have dropped
they just dropped one, so that's really interesting why they did that. Yeah.
So I thought that they could have had some sort of, like when they had this 9th match in place with Seth and Riddle, I thought, okay, there's 9, maybe they'll add 2 more, right? So that would put them at 11. So now they would, even if they added 2 more, there would only be 10. So they'd still be down 2 from last year, which is still reasonable, but 8 is a little too far back to fill a 4-hour SummerSlam. So I'm guessing you will see a Shinsuke and Gunther match because they've been building up on this and stuff. And I actually think what's Gunther's honcho's Kaiser is going to turn on Gunther. I think so because he's been doing the chops. And everything.
What if it's a Kaiser versus Gunther match
for the Intercontinental title?
Because he keeps attacking him. Because it actually like tiny reminds me of Moxley, MJ and Wardlow. Obviously switched though, right?
True.
Kaiser's like his supporter, but now he's torturing him, right? He beat Shinsuke and yet still got the chop, right?
And he didn't beat him on his own though. Gunther had to get it.
Gunther did help him. Yeah, so maybe he'll attack. Maybe he'll be like, "That's it. I've had enough. I'm gonna like let's do this. So there could be that.
But I feel there has to be an Intercontinental title match on the card, just to throw that extra title in there.
Yeah, because then all the titles will be up for grabs,
which is great.
Yeah,
if that's the case, and then to your point, maybe we see a New Day and Viking Raiders match, because they have been feuding over the last few weeks as well for a while.
I was also thinking somehow the Shillelagh match gets pushed to Saturday, because that would be an amazing match, right? I'm surprised they didn't. They mind you, I guess they need some material for the Friday,
be right,
but like
because they just wrestled on Raw, and they're both SmackDown superstars, so maybe they don't want them doing 2 big matches in a week. So maybe they're gonna say, oh yeah, they're a little tired, or Sheamus is pushing it off again, and then they'll run into SummerSlam.
that was a pretty decent storyline, I have to say. I like that. He's like, I've got COVID.
He said he got COVID, and the week before, or 2 weeks before, what was his name? Baron Corbin, Happy Corbin, had said to Pat McAfee, he's like, I got monkeypox. And he had like dots on him, and he's like, I got monkeypox. So they're trying to fake like these things to go push forward, but I wouldn't be surprised. You're right, they probably would push this match to SummerSlam, just because it's a big match.
Shillelagh match? Are you kidding me? That'd be awesome.
And Drew on a card would likely bring
and Sheamus. Yeah, Drew and Sheamus, right? Especially the stakes of like, is that then at that night you get to see obviously Roman and Brock go at it, and then you get to see who they're going to face, who the winner's going to face, even if it's theory, at the next main event. So I think that'd be kind of a cool thing. Makes me think they're going to push it, because like, why wouldn't they? You know what I mean? It's just
I wonder what they'll do for SmackDown then, because if they do push it again, they'll have a little segment, of course. But man, they're going to run out of material to do tomorrow.
They're going to run a half an hour of the Maxim male models.
The half an hour I will not watch, because I don't want to know what happened with Maxime Dupree.
Yeah, oh my God.
We might see LA Knight come out. Who knows?
Yeah, who knows? But well, maybe they can actually start wrestling, because it's a wrestling show. I guess they're trying to do some comic relief, but like I don't know. It's just it's a bit.
They're trying to do
weird.
a skit, like a segment on the side. I do believe that what I heard was when Max Dupree first came up to the roster from NXT, he was actually wrestling dark matches, so off-air matches with the whole Maxim male model thing, and it was called LA Knight Models Agency, and he was doing this. Okay. He was doing this in dark matches, and apparently it went over well with the fans, so Vince kept it it going, and what happened is the main guy, I don't remember the two models' names, but the main guy, he was actually wrestling matches like while LA Knight was kind of like managing him more so, and then they were doing this on dark matches to test it out and live events. So maybe we will see them wrestle at some point, and then we'll actually see LA Knight as like his own entity, which I think, like you were saying, fans are actually happy about that. They want LA Knight to come up. I don't know much about him. I'm not a big NXT guy. I have watched NXT in the past. I've watched a lot of it in like the mid 2010s, but I haven't watched recently, so I don't really know a lot about what's going on in these characters. But it is cool to see them come up. So maybe he can make a good splash. He's got that look to him too. He's got a good, like a competitor's look to him. So I think he could get into the mix of things on Raw.
Absolutely. So we're almost at the end of time. So what I want to do is SummerSlam is Saturday. What I really would like to do is kind of a quick lightning round. We'll go through each match. We'll rank it of our excitement of it from 1 to 5. 1 being not so much excited.
Kind of just like what we did with the playoffs.
Yeah. And then who we predict will win. So let's start with the women's championship match. Liv Morgan versus Ronda Rousey. What is your excitement level?
Out of 10?
Out of 5.
Out of 5.
Let's make it easy.
3.
I'm also a 3. And who do you think will win?
Liv.
I also think Liv will win. I think it's just it's too obvious that because she just got her plates last week, so I think
I'll throw in a wrench to it. I think Liv's gonna win, but I think there's gonna be interference. We may see a return of Charlotte or Bayley or someone in the division, maybe even Alexa Bliss. We'll see some.
Or we see that ever needed heel turn from our friend Ronda.
Thank goodness, that would be great.
Just snap her arm. Not really. Don't snap Liv's arm, but like do something.
Poor Liv.
Okay. Yeah. Do Raw Women's Championship. Bianca Belair versus Becky Lynch. Out of 5, your excitement.
4.
I'm a 3. I'm just it's it's been done before,
It's been done before, but they work really well together, so I'm going to give it a 4.
Yeah.
It'll probably be a good match.
And who do you think will win?
Becky.
I think Bianca will win. I think she'll get her
redemption story.
She's from Tennessee, and she got beat 26 seconds. So I mean, if she goes longer than that, then it'll be a success.
It'll be a win for her. Yeah.
Pat McAfee and Happy Corbin. Out of 5, your excitement.
2.
Yeah, I'm a 2. I like Pat McAfee.
I do really like Pat McAfee, but I don't like Happy Corbin very much.
So who do you think will win this one? McAfee, you think?
Fans are behind McAfee. Fans are behind McAfee, man. So I'm just gonna say McAfee.
I'll say Corbin just to because it's a good heel thing if he beats the.
He's a very
favorite.
good heel. Apparently,
yeah.
I read something about him. He's probably the most hated by the fans, or one of the most hated wrestlers. By
the
really?
Fans.
But in the locker room, he's one of the most liked guys. Interesting, hey?
It doesn't surprise me. That's kind of like the enforcers in hockey, right? Like they're not very nice on the ice, but they're like the best guys.
Yeah.
Like you like trust your kids with them and things like that. United States Championship: Bobby Lashley versus Theory. Excitement level.
I think this is going to be a good match. I don't think it's going to be the best match on the card, but I think it will definitely be a good one. I'm going to say 3.5 out of 5. Can I give halves?
Yes, we can give. No, yeah, I think I'm gonna go 4. I just like Lashley. I think he's
love
just
Lashley,
a human like muscle machine, and I'm surprised like anyone can. He crushed a watermelon with his own bare hands, for Christ's sake. Who do you think will win?
I have to go with Lashley on this one. Like we talked about earlier, I think it's going to be really important for him to create relevancy for that title again. I think that's the most important thing.
I think it's Lashley too, especially now with Paul at the helm. Undisputed WWE Tag Team Championships: the Usos versus the Street Profits with special guest referee Jeff Jarrett. Your excitement?
The Profits always put up a good match. Okay, so yeah. I'll say a 4 out of 5.
Yeah, the one at the and who do you think will win?
It's a really tough one, but I'm going to go with the Profits on this one. I think the Usos have held the titles for long enough. Fans are ready for a change. I think the WWE recognizes that. And with the whole special enforcer thing, I think it's leaning towards the Profits to win and give them one last, good title reign as a tag team.
I am also a 4, and because the match at Money in the Bank was fantastic, and I'm loving everything. Even Montez Ford got completely split open on Friday and still did really well. And I also think they'll win. I think they push the Street Profits pretty hard, and you can sort of see like I think people are kind of getting tired of the Usos. So I think this will be your least favorite match: Logan Paul versus The Miz. What's your excitement level?
I don't even want to give it a 1, but I'll give it a 1.
So you can give it a 0.5 if you'd like.
I'll give it a 0.5, and I'm going to go with Logan on this one. And the reason being is I feel like they're not going to just bring him in for him to lose a stupid match. So I feel like I'm going to go with Logan. Although I do want The Miz to win, I think somehow Logan's going to pull it off.
I'm also a 0.5, maybe even like a 0.3. And yeah, probably Paul, because they signed him and all that stuff. It's like, I hope it's one that they like kind of like, they won't start off with it because they want to start off with something. I think if Theory and Lashley start first, then you'll see Theory try to cash in at the end of the night.
Agreed.
That's one of my predictions. But yeah, not excited. The Mysterios versus the Judgment Day, and you're right, it is just Dominic and Ray versus Damian and Finn.
With Rhea in their corner.
It's no disqualification. I believe.
It's a no disqualifications match. Okay.
Yes.
With that no disqualifications title in the match, I think they have opportunity for this to be a 5 out of 5 match. But I'm going to go with a 4 out of 5.
So you're excited. That's how you're excited for it.
I'm excited for it. I think that this could be a very close to a 5 out of 5 match because of all the things that we have so much uncertainty around this match, and this could be a really big pop with Edge or someone like Bray or Beth or someone coming back. There is a very valid possibility that this could happen that could really spark the crowd. So I think it's potential for a 5 out of 5, but I'm going to give a 4 out of 5. to be fair. I think Judgment Day is going to walk away with a win on this one.
So I am also 4 out of 5, and I think it's going to be, yeah. I'm wondering, like, I wonder if Edge gets involved. I think the Mysterios will win, but yeah, I think maybe it's another, it's going to be a win for the Judgment Day, so they can continue their horrible reign, you know.
Yeah, I agree.
So, and the main event, for the undisputed Universal Championship, Brock Lesnar versus Roman Reigns in a last man standing match. What is your excitement level for that?
I like Roman and Brock. I know they're going to put together a 5-star match. I know they will. So I'll give it a 5.
Me too. I'm very excited for it.
This also could have some uncertainty and some twist to it, so it could be really exciting. Because it could be a triple threat, but it could also be the cash in time, and that could create some excitement. So I'm gonna give it a 5. And
who's going to win?
I'm gonna go with Brock.
I'm gonna go with Roman.
I say it for the reason why I said before. If Brock loses this match, his relevancy as the big guy is gone. And I don't think he'll be as much of a draw, and I think WWE is scared to make Brock not be a draw. So I'm gonna go with Brock.
I think it's Roman, because they invested so much in him, and they also, another caveat is this is the last match between them.
Sure.
If that's true, then if Brock won, then there has to be a rematch in there. So
you are right, but I'm sticking with my Brock.
Yeah, no, fair enough. So I think we'll stop there. I think that's a good place to stop.
One thing before we go here. I have an idea. Let's throw on a random one for us. With the Seth Rollins match being canceled, do you have any anticipation that Seth will show up at SummerSlam? Will he be involved in one of the matches, like the triple threat? Or do you think we'll see a surprise competitor again, because they did it at WrestleMania? Will we see a surprise competitor come back and face Seth to make up for that match? Thoughts?
I do think Seth's going to be there.
Yeah.
And in some capacity, yeah. Like, it's just he can't not be there. The crowd loves him. I mean, he's a heel, and the crowd cheers. I was seeing something that, like, when the cameras turned off after Raw, the fans were still singing his song. Yeah. He just injured Riddle, which is another fan favorite. So yeah, I think he's there in some capacity, and I do think there's more good matches to be added. I think you're right, because they gotta sell tickets. So yeah, we shall see. So Saturday is going to be an exciting day. SummerSlam, tune in, and definitely next episode we'll spend a lot of time, like we did Money in the Bank, breaking down what we all saw. It's going to be quite the evening. So thanks everyone for watching and listening. Please hit subscribe on YouTube, leave a written review on YouTube, and leave a written review of a star written variety on Spotify or Apple. As I always say, my beautifully bearded friend, thanks for chatting with me.
Thanks, Jeff. Thank you, everyone, and excited for SummerSlam, but we'll catch you at the next one.
Absolutely.